Hello, 7th graders. This is Miss White, and today we're doing Lesson 19, Understanding Variability when Estimating a Population Proportion. In previous lessons, you've selected several random samples from a population. You recorded values of a numerical variable. Then you calculated the mean for each sample and saw that there was variability in the sample means and created a distribution of sample means to better see the sampling variability. You then considered larger samples and saw that the variability in these distributions decreases when sample sizes increase. Well, in this lesson, you will use a similar process to investigate variability and sample proportions. Before we get started, I want to go over with you what is the difference between numerical data and categorical data. And you can write this anywhere on your paper. I'm just writing them in different spots. Numerical means that our statistical question answer is in numbers. And to get numbers, we have to use numbers from data to complete that. And with this lesson today, we're going to be working with categorical data. Categorical data means that we are not answering a statistical question by using a number. So it's the opposite of numerical data. An example for this is maybe I go to school and I want to see how many students are wearing different colored shirts and what different color shirts they're wearing. Well, in this case, it would be based on the color of shirt, not based on a number. All right, so for example 1, we are going to pretend that we are living in the scenario, and I'm going to give your group a bag that contains colored cubes. Some are red. And with your classmates, you're going to build a distribution of sample proportions. So each person in your group is randomly going to select a sample of 10 cubes from the bag, and then you're going to record your data down here. So let's pretend that for your data outcome for your cube 1, we have green. And then our second one is red. Our third one is green. Our fourth one is yellow. Our fifth one is also going to be yellow. Our sixth one is blue. Our seventh one is red. Our eighth one is yellow. Our ninth one is red. And then our 10th one, the last one, is yellow. Okay, so we've completed our table. Now, what is the proportion of red cubes in your sample of 10? And this value we call the sample portion is founded by dividing the number of successes by the total number of observations in the sample. If we were going to write this out as a formula, this is what it looks like. Our sample proportion equals the number of successes in the sample. I might need to make my line a little bit longer. There we go. Over the total number of observations in the sample. Okay, all right. Go ahead and pause the video if you need more time to write this down. Now, in this problem, let's talk about what is our success. Well, it wants to know the proportion of the red cubes. And because we have the proportion of the red cubes, that means that the red cubes is going to be our success. So when I look at my table above, I see that we had 3 red cubes. So I'm going to have 3 over the total number of observations in the sample, which is our 10 cubes that we randomly selected, which is 3 out of 10. When we put this into decimal form, it's going to be 3/10. Let's go on to the next page. All right, let's look at C. It says write your sample proportion on a sticky note and place it on the number line that your teacher has drawn on the board. Place your note above the value on the number line that corresponds to your sample proportion. The graph of all students' sample proportions is called a sampling distribution of the sample proportions. So we are going to create a number line here, and we kind of want to leave as much room as we can. I'm going to have it go from 0 to 1. Okay, so I have 0, and then I'm going to have 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, and then 1. And this is going to be our sample proportion. And for our dot plot of the sample proportions for n equals 10, because that's how many times we went into the bag to get another cube. Okay. Now the sample proportion we found was 3/10, so we can put a dot over the 10 or the 3/10 that we found. Now, in order to think about the sample distribution, we have to have multiple sample proportions. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to add some more data that represents what we just did, and we're going to kind of pretty much pretend like we did it. So go ahead, and as I'm drawing these dots, please draw them where they're supposed to be. Now that we have put our sample proportions on our dot plot, we're going to go ahead and describe the shape of the distribution. What do we notice about the shape of the distribution here? I noticed that it has a nearly symmetrical distribution and that it is clustered around 4/10. So this means that our data is very symmetrical. Looking here, we don't have one number on this side very high and then no number on over here. What we have is it's a little bit in the middle, and that our numbers that were being used are more towards this middle and then lessening when we get closer to 0 and 1. Let's go ahead and look at E. It says describe the variability in the sample proportions. Well, the spread of the data is from 1/10 to 7/10, and much of that data is clustered between 3/10 and 5/10. Now, based on the distribution, what do you think is the population proportion? Well, looking at our data plot here, we know it's heavily given between 3/10 and 5/10, and so a good estimate is going to be about 4/10. All right, and that concludes our video for today. I will see you in class.